Um, Hello everyone. Welcome to day 4 of Data Reuse Days 2025. My name is Alan Ang, the Senior Partner Manager for Wikidata at Wikimedia Deutschland. In the next 90 minutes, 5 presenters will spend 10 minutes each in a lightning talk format to talk about their projects, and we will then have a joint Q&A session at the end of the 5 presentations. Without much further ado, please allow me to invite presenters Anne Mulisch and Gerd Müller, I hope I pronounced the names correctly, to talk about Glamorous Europe, dating the glams of your neighbors. Presenters, please.
Thank you very much. I just gonna share my screen. It might take some seconds, so just be patient.
No worries, I would let you know if it's shared. Okay, we can see your screen now, Anne.
Okay. Um, so welcome everybody to the presentation of the web app Glamorous Europe, dating the glams of your neighbors. I'm Anne Mühlich. I'm today alone. My partner Gerd Müller is not here with us today, but I'm representing our company called Digitalwarenkombinat, also a tricky name. With our company, we aim to help GLAM institutions to develop digital projects. If you never heard about GLAM, which might happen here, I don't know. GLAM stands for galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. So basically, we love to work with digitized data from cultural institutions. And that's also what Glamorous Europe is about. I will tell you now what the web app is and what we're planning in the future. So my talk is divided into two parts. First part, what work has been done already, and the second part is an outlook in the future. So where we would like to go with the project. All right. So what is Glamorous Europe and what is the idea behind it? Basically, our idea was that we would like to create a web application which makes it possible to access cultural heritage, digitized cultural heritage, in a very playful way, so that you can dive into digitized artworks without having, let's say, some technical or some scientific interest and without using boring and unattractive databases. And therefore, we are using randomized European collections so that you don't need to be interested in one specific museum or collection. So that's what your Glamorous Europe is about. And the web app itself, it is divided into basically three chapters. The selection, the collection, and the canvas. The first chapter, there you are being shown different artworks from European collections. And in a Tinder-like approach, by swiping, you can select your favorite ones, or you can also dislike them. Um, and yeah, if you like them, they are going to a collection, which is the next chapter. And to get these artworks, we are querying Wikidata with GraphQL. So that's why I'm here today, because it's about Wikidata. So all those artworks which we are using and all the information which you see beneath the artworks are all coming from the Wikidata datasets. So if you did that for a while and you collected some favorite artworks, you can switch to chapter 2, which is the collection. In the collection part, you can view your own collection of artworks. So every picture or object you liked is being shown there. And then you can select smaller details from the pictures, from the artworks, with the help of a IIIF viewer, which also allows to zoom deeply into the picture. If you never heard about IIIF, it's a standard for delivering high quality images. Um, and right now, you have the option to select like a square picture from the artwork, but it also has a lasso tool which we still want to improve in the future, which still doesn't work as we would love to have it. So yeah, you can grab small details from this artwork and then go to the third chapter, the canvas. And there you can build your own collage. You can build and remix your own artwork. And therefore you can drag and drop details and choose between various backgrounds, or also create own backgrounds and choose between frames. And then, yeah, by doing that, you can create your own glamorous artwork. This you can save, you can share it, and we still are about to improve the resolution of the images for offline use, so that you could also print it. Right now, the resolution is not so high, but we're still working on that. So this is what we have done so far. Maybe as an explanation, we had half a year funding to develop this prototype. So it's still a prototype, which, yeah, it works, but we still have a lot of ideas how to improve it technically, but also concerning the content and also concerning the features. We still would like to continue to work on this project. That's why I also now will present to you some of the ideas which we have in mind to improve it in the future. So, and what the glamorous future might bring. The first thing is we would like to implement a recommender system. So based on your liked and disliked artworks, we would like to recommend you new objects, so new items from digitized collections. For example, if you like portraits of women, we could recommend to you more objects of the similar type. So basically other portraits of women. And we would also like to implement the possibility of filtering by institutions, so by museum, galleries, archives, by material which is being used for this type of artwork, also by the period of art, for example, so that you could find easier more things which you are interested in. The second thing which we would like to integrate is Wikipedia. Right now, we are using only the data from the Wikidata datasets. But for us, it would be also more interesting to integrate more information about the artist, for example, about the artwork itself, if there's a broader background story, for example, or also about the specific period of art. For example, so in the end, it could be a possibility to combine spontaneous browsing through art collections and research features. So if you have a deeper interest in the picture, in the person, that might be tackled with that. And on the other hand, we are also still thinking about making it easier to implement Wikidata edits within the app, but we are still not sure if it makes sense in the app, because that tackles the question, who is our main target group, and if this feature would be interesting to them or not. And as a third point, we still would like to integrate user accounts, so that you could be able to save your collections and also to save your own artwork collage, so that you can come back and work on it later on, or also to collaborate with others to work on one artwork or collection, which could be maybe interesting also if you have like school homework for arts lessons or something like that. So you could use it for that. And also we would like to implement a personalized feed with recommended on-site exhibitions. So for example, if you like several artworks of the same institution, we could recommend you on-site exhibitions of this museum, or if you like artworks from, let's say, the Romantic period, we would recommend to you exhibitions presenting those, so that there's also a connection to the real life, let's say. So yeah, this is the short presentation of the project Glamorous Europe. And now I would like you to try it out and to check out Glamorous Europe. You find the URL here. You can also scan the QR code. And yeah, feel very free to send us feedback or get in touch if you are interested to support us. And our contact data you will find on the last page. So yeah, here are both our names, our email addresses, and also our Wiki, GitHub, Instagram handle. So yeah, feel free to contact us afterwards, because if there are any technical questions, I try to answer them, but I'm usually not the one who's in charge for that, but I will try to do my best.
Wow, thank you, Anna, for the wonderful showcase. Next up, we have presenters Jan Ainali and Elvin Larson to share how the Gulf Directory project monitors data quality and changes in a pre-recorded video that they have done previously. So may I invite my colleagues to play the pre-recorded video for now? But don't worry, both presenters will be around in the Q&A session later on. Thank you, Ian, for sharing the slides in the chat.
We want to tell for you today how we monitor data quality and changes for the Gov Directory project. My name is Jan Einari.
And I'm Albin. GovDirectory is a crowdsourced and fact-checked directory of official government online accounts and services. And it's built on Wikidata and co-created by the Wikimedia community.
So to the left here, you see how GovDirectory looks online. And it's basic information about countries and public organizations, including their online accounts and services. And you can also search for topics or countries. And there are also buttons to give feedback and suggest improvements for the community.
And all of this data comes from Wikidata, which everyone can edit. But because of this, we're also basing this GovDirectory on a Wikidata cache. So when you do an edit on Wikidata, it doesn't directly show up on GovDirectory. And this is to avoid vandalism.
And on GovDirectory today, we have 35 countries, over 12,000 organizations, and over 30,000 contact points. And this is mostly to give you a sense of the number of items that we are having to deal with from Wikidata on the GovDirectory project. And that is sort of the scale of this. There is a little bit of the problem that we are facing.
And the problem is rather complex. And it's not necessarily because the complexity of Wikidata, but the complexity of the world. Because it's always changing. And Wikidata contains amazing things like people model government agencies that do not exist yet, but will exist in a year. And Wikidata's data model changes over time. And we need to take this into account when we build a GovDirectory.
So what can we do? Luckily, there are a number of tools that can rescue us from this.
This is how we started when we created Wikidata several years ago. We created Wikitext lists where we said, here's a type of government agency, like a ministry in Finland, and there should be 12 of them. And sometimes we had a source for this, sometimes we didn't. And this is our origin story.
And as all of you are Wikimedians, I think, you know about the watch lists. But you also know that watch lists can be very long and things can drown in them, especially when you're trying to cover over 10,000 different items. Which edits are really relevant for us? So there we have a number of tools. We do have the Listeria, super great thing where you can actually just put a Sparkle query into the template that then creates a table. And that table, you can put that on your watch lists, which makes it possible to find something like this edit, where suddenly there was a future region in Denmark. But Of course, that was a good day when you saw the thing on the top. Sometimes these edits are huge because the watch page with the list area can have hundreds of items on it, or sometimes even up to 1,000. But there are other tools that can help us. We have this great integrality template and button framework where not only can you get a sense of the coverage of the existing items, but you also get a nice little count there to the left. We see there are 19 regions in Finland. And then when you get this little update where it's 20, it's very easy to see, oh, something happened here. And you can go investigate what was that.
And this is also something that we started doing. So GovDirector built from a bunch of SparkQL queries. And to easily track if something changed without us knowing, we annotated the top of the SparkQL query with this small comment there that this query expects a certain number of results. And we ended up automating this in a bunch of tooling. So we have a small program which we can run, which checks all of our SparkQL queries, and if they return the right number of results. The same every time we update the product and its code, we check which queries changed. Did the data also change? Do the numbers still match?
So this is a great base for what we have now. But of course, we're not happy with all of the quality. What do we want to do in the future? And one thing that we noticed is that on some of the type items like municipality of Sweden, there's already this property quantity being used where you can set how many are there here. And we thought, maybe we can check that and have Wikidata help us.
And this is something we are currently experimenting a lot with, making our own quality assurance more data driven, and in particular Wikidata data driven. So something you can see here is how we are using this to check not only what's in GovDirectory, but also is there types in Wikidata which already matches the expected quantity, which we should really go ahead and add to GovDirectory. So not only do we check GovDirectory itself, but we also use this to discover things to add into GovDirectory. And this is something we want to build upon and really think about what orchard types of properties are there that we can use for this type of quality assurance. For example, something we already use is we check if there's a reference for certain values like emails and phone numbers. We mandate that if we're gonna use that and display that on GovDirectory, we check there must be a source. But there are tons of opportunities here where we can use this to figure out, did something go wrong? Did the piece of modeling change in a very critical way?
And there we come to sort of like a few questions for the community to ponder for external data users.
So we got this amazing external use template on property talk pages, which tracks is there a template on another wiki project that is dependent upon this property. And that's great. But we want something like this for external project as well. As someone who depends on a piece of content in Wikidata, I want to signal to the community that, hey, please, if you're going to change this, you just think that a couple of us could really be using this and things might break if you don't notify us. We want something similar, like there is here for Orchard projects. We don't know how this would happen, if it would be a new template, expand on the same template, or if there's another option out there.
And similarly, we want to think about items that are being used because both the items themselves we show, but also how they are modeled with the subclasses. And if you change those, that may change the queries that end up. And there are some properties that we already have, but they're really thought about like, oh, this is on a focus list for a Wikimedia project, or this item is being maintained. So do we need something more, or would it be good for external users to sort of still use those? Do we imply that an external user always have a wiki project? And will this kind of usage scale, or should we have a template that can have more kind of things on it? So these are things that we don't have the answer for right now, but we would like for people to, during the data reuse days, to think about them.
Thank you.
And please go help us on Wiki project Gov directory.
Wow, thank you, Ian and Albin. So I've shared the link to the video, to this video that is has been uploaded to Wikimedia's Commons. In case any of you want to rewatch this, or you please want to watch this in your own time. Yes, thank you. So next up, we have our third application showcase for today. This will be presented by user J. Sam Wrights or John Samuel, who is in our hi John, yeah, who is here today on the project MISCORE Multilinguality Score of Wikidata Items and Properties. John, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Alan. Thank you once again to the Wikidata Data Reuse Days program committee for giving me a chance to talk about the multilinguality score of Wikidata items and properties. I'm John Samuel, and today I would like to share about the possibility of verifying the multilinguality scores of different languages on Wikidata. So, what's the problem? The problem that I'm going to talk about is with the question, how multilingual is Wikidata? So when you see an article on Wikipedia, you know the entire article is available in a given language. But this is not the case when you do the same on Wikidata, because you do not have the entire information available in your local language. So the question is, okay, the goal of Wikidata is to be being multilingual, but do we really have this content coverage in all the languages? So if you see carefully, sometimes you have certain properties that have been translated, certain values that have been translated, but not the entire content. So this this is what I want to work on, and how we can measure the multilinguality of Wikidata. So if I to continue, I just want to give you certain one example, and I'm using the most famous item. Okay, this time I'm not taking the item Douglas Adams. I'm taking the item human being. So what I'm doing is I took the language Dagbani for this use for our discussion, and as you can see, I am showing two properties here. One is the properties for this type, and the another is instance. And in the case of for properties for this type, those properties are not available in the Dagbani language. And similarly, even though the instance of property has been translated, it has the values related to it, for example, person or individual animal is not translated. So you do not and fully know what percentage of item is completely translated. So the solution is ML scores, and this solution wants to evaluate the multilingual coverage in Wikidata, and it wants to present the percentages of labels and valuable values, property values in different languages. And the ultimate goal is to detect the missing translations for properties and values. So let me take a simple example. I'm coming back to the example of Q5, human being. And I said, okay, let me check the percentage score of translation in English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Dagbani. And as you can see, there is no surprise. The property labels have been well translated. In English language, you have 100%. Then comes French with 99% of translation. Then Spanish, and Dagbani is not very bad. You can see that we already have 72.12% of translation. But this problem of property translation has been studied by the research community multiple times, but people have not looked at the other part. For example, what happens to the property value labels? And the surprise comes on the right hand side. And if you come to check the Dagbani language, you see that the translation is only at 8.65%. So there's a lot of work. So if a Dagbani speaker checks the Q5, the most one of the most popular pages on Wikidata, they do not see the entire content in their local language. They see a lot of content in English language or maybe on some other language which they are using. So this is something that is the goal of ML score. It presents you the score of whether the data is entirely available in your local language. The next point that I want to talk about is, okay, how can I understand what to translate? So I am once again taking the same example. Here in the end, I've added one particular tag which says -m, or under or to say give me all the information regarding the missing translation. So now you have additional information. If you are doing some sort of editathons, you could see that for the Q5, the, s- the following properties are not translated. So this is what we can do. We could translate these values. And similarly, for the property values, I have not put the entire list. As you could have seen in the previous slide, there were a lot of data that were not translated. So we had to translate. We have a lot of items that are not translated. So in this case, what happens is that you can look at the gaps in your translation, and you can also support multiple languages. Like for example, as I have shown you, have one item and I have put a number of items for comparison purposes to see how well your language is performing on Wikidata. So, who am I targeting for? Of course, this is for Wikidata editors, and of course, it came from my personal use case. I will talk about it just later. And the thing is, I wanted to see how can I make and ensure good translation. If I do some sort of editathons, is it really working? Is it really helping the community? So this is the prioritizing the missing translations is very important, and then ensuring that the multilingual data is complete. Like for example, if you are doing some sort of data collection in certain languages, you're ensuring whether entire data is has been translated or not. And finally, like for example, if you want to do the community-driven efforts for language diversity, for example, if you are doing some editathons, most of the time what I have seen is that people do editathons on Wikidata, but they do not look at uh, the language level of things, like what's happening in a particular language. So here I can give an example of GLAM, and so we have already talked about GLAM a little bit before. Here we have three museums: the Louvre Museum, the Museum d'Orsay, and Contemporary Art Museums of Lyon. And here what I did, as you can see in this case, we have three items all related to museums. And what we can see is that we can identify those properties which need translate. For example, you are doing an editathon related to museums, you can easily identify the property that have not been translated in the French language. And similarly, some of the important items relate property values that are linked to these museums that have not been translated. So in the end, when you finish your editathon, you can just put this number of the items that you have worked on and check whether your data, especially if it's a local data, is completely available in your local language. And this is something that I tested during last year when I was doing LGBT History Month in France. And I was like, okay, let me just, if I claim that I created stuff and I want to make sure that things are really translated in French. And so when I did any item and I created any item, I put this value, all the values, and I got 100% for all the values because I wanted to ensure that the entire thing is translated in the French language. That's a goal. Then second thing, which is also something I'm as a researcher, so I'm also interested about what things have been happening in when it comes to translation. Uh, so on one side, you could see that we can compare lots of data on multiple languages on Wikidata. You can also see certain biases in the language coverage, like certain languages are very popular, like English gets always 100% for property translation, whereas for other languages, when you have less number of speakers, like we have seen in the case of Dagban, you don't have this luck to have the complete translation. You can also identify things. And then also with something which I do is I also use Wikidata translation for Wikibase instances. And I see it helps if you have a data that has been completely translated, you can use the data for improving your own personal Wikibase instance or many other applications that you are planning to develop. But one thing that I would like to end, because it's also something very interesting, is that the people can compare language trends over time. If you have group of museums you did some translation on today, and you have ended an editathon or you have done some sort of program, you can compare your language coverage within 1 month. And this is another interesting aspect of ML score. You have two scores before and after. So how you can help? Yes, of course, you, you can help by using testing the ML scores on Wikidata items. There, of course, it's a new work, and I would like to know if you have some feedback or if you want to add some missing features. I would be very happy to look at it. And yeah, if you can also help in translation, both for the application and also, of course, for Wikidata items. So thank you for giving this opportunity, and let's discuss multilingual Wikidata after the other presentation. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, John. Thank you for sharing ML Score. Apologies for mispronouncing the project earlier on. I really need to get my new pair of glasses. um, I think there were some responses in the chat group which you can take note of right now, and then we will address that later in the joint Q&A session after the last presenter finished presenting the project. Next up for the fourth project, uh, Expedition. Visualize research expeditions itineraries will be presented by Joachim Santos. I see you already here. Joachim, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to show this work. So this work is called Expeditia or Expeditia with a more Latin accent. And I am talking from Coimbra, which is a city in the middle of Portugal. I realize that many people don't know where it is, so it is right here in the middle of Portugal. It is known by its old university, one of the oldest in the world. And I work at the herbarium, which is a collection of dried plants. And you can see on the left corner down an old picture of the room, and now on what it looks like, which is not such not that different. That's where I'm sitting right now, is in this room. So what is this project about? So a colleague from the Museum for Naturkunde in Berlin, Sabine von Meering, I think she's here in this session. She gathered a group of people interested in research expeditions. Many of us work in collection, in natural history collections. And the idea was to describe research expeditions using Wikidata and using all the properties, trying to model how to describe research expeditions. So we started discussing the properties that we should use, and there were already research expeditions on Wikidata. So we started analyzing those and trying to figure out how to improve the descriptions. So I realized that we had those properties such as start time, end time, start point, via, which describes a place, a list of places where the expedition visited. So I realized that it was possible to draw an itinerary on the map. So I built a script that is very simple. It will query Wikidata for a list of research expeditions, and for each one of them get properties that allows to display the expedition on the map. For this presentation, I will be displaying the human interface, but of course, in the background, the script runs using the API. Unfortunately, I missed yesterday the sessions about APIs. I'm using this one. Probably there are others that I could use that are more fit to the purpose, but for now it is working. I will watch the recordings later and see if I can improve them. So for each expedition, the script gets basic information such as the name, the description, images, and also the start time and start point, as I mentioned before. And for each of the points, it is the start point or the one of the points of the via property or the destination point, it will get an image and coordinates in order to enrich the displaying of the expedition on a map. So we have all that information, and after the script runs, we can display this on a map. I am using a library, a JavaScript library called StoryMap.js that is very simple. You just put the points on a JSON file and it will display things on a map. Um, so for each expedition, we have this very nice presentation where people can just navigate through the expedition. And for each of the points, see some of the information when they were there. So this was the first stage of the development. Then we wanted to display also the specimens, the specimens collected during the expedition. So there is this platform called GBIF, which is the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, where many natural history collections publish their specimens. And with the specimens, you have uh, plenty of information about their collection. The place, many times with coordinates, you have images, and you have many fields that you can provide. And one of the suggestions of this wiki group was that the institutions publish the specimens, including the uh, Wikidata identifier for the expedition in this field, parent event ID, or another field, the event ID. So for the sake of this, well, trying if it would work, I just published a few specimens of my collection um, that were collected during an expedition, and I just published those specimens, including the identifier, and well, expanded the script in order to gather information about the specimens. So that worked, and we have now this stage 2 of the development where I could display specimens from expeditions on the itinerary. But not many institutions are publishing it yet, publishing the identifiers along with the specimens. So, well, I realized there was another way to know if a specimen was collected during the expedition or not. There is this nice platform developed by a colleague from Canada, David Shorthouse, which is Bionomia, where, well, it gathers information from GBIF, from specimens, and the idea is that every collector has an identifier to um, gather all the specimens under that person. The issue is that many specimens don't have an identifier, so you only have a string of text with the name of a person. So citizen scientists, wonderful citizen scientists as Chauvin, which is in this session, go here and assign um, uh, the identifier to people. So the specimens have now an identifier, and you can have a list of specimens for each people. So for each participant on the expedition, we can query Bionomia and crawl from the specimens and know if the specimen was collected on a date that matches the expedition dates. So if it matches, it was collected during the expedition. So now we can have a list of specimens collected during the expeditions, and that's where we are now. We have a list of expeditions that have itineraries if at least 3 points visited have coordinates, so we can have information for those 3 points, or if we have at least specimens in order to make 3 points of the expedition and display them on a map. So there is this list of expeditions that you can visit. Um, what are some issues that I found during this development is that many places don't have dates. So it is very difficult to display them on a map, on a sequence, because the order that they are displayed on Wikidata is not necessarily the order the places were visited. So there can be some um, mismatches on the track. Um, Also, some dates are not complete. You just have a year or a month. So it is difficult to place the place during the calendar, let's say. So uh, the same things happens with the specimens, the natural history specimens. Some don't have a full date. So during the navigation through the expedition, you will notice that some are you are going back and forth because the date is not complete. So the current state of the tool is proof of concept. It's just, well, we know it is possible to do something nice to display the research expeditions itinerary. Um, the problem is because I didn't need it. I didn't need an internal database. I am not using one right now, but so I just have a JSON with the points of the map. Gathering the information is not efficient because I cannot filter by dates or CSV format from the Bionomia API. Um, I don't provide a full list of specimens. I only display the specimens on the map if they have coordinates. I don't display any information about the participants, and don't display any archival material like field notebooks, drawings, or anything produced during the expedition. So for the future, I want to redesign this, and well, the basic change will be to implement an internal database where I can gather all the information, and just that will allow to speed up the data gathering, display a full list of specimens, whether they have coordinates or not, display info about the participants of the expeditions, allow searches, internal searches, like give me all the expeditions where this person participated, and provide an API so that people can query this platform and get information about the expeditions. So thank you for your attention.
Wow, thank you, Yakim, for sharing your wonderful project. Uh, yeah, our last application showcase for today will be presented by three presenters, namely Michelle Kaluba, Catherine Amia, and Alice Shibombo. I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Uh, so, who will be the lead presenter for this? Kindly share your screen.
I will share first and then Michael will speak some more.
Hi,
And yes, you
Alice.
pronounced the name right.
Thank you
Hey.
very much. Let me hand over to you, Alice.
All right, Michael, sharing a screen. All right, as Michael gets ready to share the screen, good evening, everybody from Kampala. Unfortunately, I'm not able to share my screen because of bandwidth problems. We are very grateful that we are here. It's been a learning experience for us to be here. But without further ado, I would like to just give an introduction of our experience about mapping libraries in Uganda, powered by Wikidata. And then Michael Kaluba and Catherine Amia will take over from me. So the project was a result of a partnership between us and the Community Libraries Association of Uganda, because they had been mapped before, but we found that many of the coordinates especially were missing, and this was giving a lot of misleading information, and we had to go into the field physically to rectify that. And the result of this was actually to have an interactive map that was powered by Wikidata and Wikimedia Commons. And I will now hand over to Michael Kaluba, who was the team lead in the field, to take us through the final product.
Alice. Um, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, we can
My
hear you. We can hear you, Michael.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, my name is Michael Kalba, and with the experience that I had from OpenCityMap Uganda, a community I'm part of, I was able to successfully lead this project. So the aim for the project was basically uh, to bridge the gaps, the data gaps we had, especially for community libraries in Uganda. This included most of them didn't have like coordinates, and most of them were missing on Wikidata, and they were actually lacking visibility for on the internet. So what we decided to do um, is that I created a form, a data collection tool. So put together a team, and the team went on ground, collected information about these libraries, and the information that was collected in the field. One, we used it to update information of already existing libraries on Wikidata, and some that existed on Wikipedia. So the information we got, like coordinates and um, contact information, the history of these libraries, plus the pictures, um, we used to update the information about these libraries. So um, the we were able to integrate data that was collected with that is already existing on Wikipedia um, by linking them. So we were not able to do it automatically. We had to do it manually, because we wouldn't push all the libraries we had collected in the field, since some of them were already existing. We will go into these links later. So we were able um, to use OpenSwitchBomb products, one of them called UMaps, which um, I I uploaded this data we had collected after doing some cleanup, because after doing a field data collection, a lot of other information, or the system added columns and rows in the data. So I had to do a cleanup. After doing a cleanup, uh, we I uploaded this data to UMaps to be able to create the product. So the data we collected was used mainly in three ways. One, to create this map product. Two, to update the items on Wikipedia and Wikidata. Three, we created um, a category on Wikimedia Commons, which hosted all the images. So what I did after was, after uploading the data on UMaps, we were able to link the, the pictures, media files that are on Commons to to these libraries. And also we are planning to do the same for other projects, and we want this time to not only link media files, but also to be able, because um, it would take time to pick like links that connect each um, library to a Wikidata item. But I will look into doing it on our next project. So to share with you, this is the product that we had. So I will share this in the chat. You're able um, to zoom and check out how many libraries we have, in which region is there, and the districts. And you're able to also go to individual libraries like this one. Click on it, then you're able to get the information that we were able to gather in the field about it. That includes the name of the library, the vision and mission if they have, plus a little bit of their background, and all the information that is needed to be known about the library. And also you're able to see some of the images that were taken, and these images are hosted on Commons, as you can see. The licenses there. Um, so this is the category we created, and it has more than 200 images of these libraries. most of the, because we didn't want I didn't want to congest um, the information about the library on the maps. I had to pick only a few images. But on this description, you're able to, if you need to see all the libraries, um, the categories we created for libraries and the public and community libraries, you're able to check out those links and see all the information we were able to gather. Yeah. So I think that's it. I will give it to Kathy if she's on to add on more. Thank you.
All right. I don't think Catherine is here with us, um, but we'll make sure that she says something on the talk page. Over to you, Alan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alice and Michael, for sharing this interesting project. And with the mapping libraries in Uganda project, that concludes our 5 application showcase for today's session. However, next up we will have a open discussion, question and answers, Q&A session on the 5 projects that you have witnessed and seen earlier on. Just a quick reminder, if you have a question, yes, thank you, in the chat group. If you have a question for a specific project or for a specific presenter, please, you can write the project title in front and put a colon so that everyone is clear who you're referring to and which project you're referring to. If you wish to raise your hand and speak and unmute yourself, then please raise your hand, use the raise hand button, and then I will come to you. So we have a first question here for John for the ML Score project. Do you plan to develop the tool as a web app? This question is by one of our participants, George Gameto. Yeah.
Thanks, Josh, for the question. Yeah, initially I wanted to make it as a web app, but last year I had to make it like very fastly, and I wanted to test it for an editathon, so I didn't work on it. But yes, if that's something that I would love to do, yeah, it's possible. Yeah, to do.
That's great. Thank you. Yes, a big thank you too from the participant who asked the question. So anyone who has any question, feel free to jump in while our presenters while participants are thinking about questions to ask. Just a quick fun fact to share with everyone: the Gov Directory project is actually officially recognized as a digital public goods by the Digital
Ghana can be on for next week already. We can already decide that. And we don't have any specific trainings, but I hope there are good videos on the project page that would be explanatory. And if you need more help, the talk pages are also good, and you find our project page over here.
That's great. Thank you for your answer, Ian. John has a question for Anna. Anna, how did you integrate the GraphQL with Wikidata in-home solution?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm not the technical guy in our team, so I hope I can answer the question. Actually, we are right now crawling the Wikidata live, basically. That's also why the loading time is sometimes quite long. We still have some ideas to implement a different way, but yeah, we didn't have time to do it. Not really sure if this answers the question. Yeah, but if you want to know more, then I would recommend just to get in touch via email or something like that. And maybe Gerd could write you something more about that afterwards.
Great, thank you. Yeah, just feel free to write, John, if feel free to write to Anna or even Garrett later on if you need more questions. And we need more answers to technical questions. We have a question for Joachim. Have you seen the JSTOR Global Plant's Zambezi Expedition project, and do you take inspiration from it?
Hi. Actually, I did not. I'm familiar with JSTOR because there's a lot of botanical specimens there, but I don't know this particular project. I will take a look. Thank you, Shovan.
Thank you. Yes, you should all connect to each other and to come together and to talk and to exchange and learn from each other. This is what we are here for. Thank you. Anybody else has any question? Just feel free to raise your hand or to put it into the chat. Our presenters are all here and very excited to share. We have another question for Joachim. Love the talk. Is it leading to any new insights or publications?
So, well, I have been presenting this when it fits. So I have been in the last week in Prague, something related to knowledge graphs is a cost action, and I had a poster there, and I hope that with this wiki project that we can expand it as much as possible to make publications, and maybe, well, if it leads to something innovative in the way we explore data or we understand data from expeditions, for sure we want to publish that. Actually, our colleague Sabine, I think she's here. She has led some publications in conferences as well about our work in the Research Expeditions Wiki project. So we are trying to disseminate this among the collections, natural history collections mainly, because many expeditions are related to the institutions, research natural history collections, and that's part of our interest. So we are trying to disseminate this and try to reach people and convince them to share the information they have about the expedition to make it available to everybody. Yeah.
Great, thank you for your response, Joachim. John has shared another use case for expeditious travel itineraries. Do you think about it?
Yeah, I don't know if the question is trying to do some commercial thing about traveling for tourism. So I have not thought about it. I don't think it's the purpose of it. So yeah, we are trying to release data about historical expeditions mainly. Yeah.
Thank you. We have a question for the presenters of the Uganda libraries. The participant asked, I wasn't clear where the text descriptions of Uganda libraries are held. Is that in UMAP? Alice
Yeah,
or Michael?
the link I shared has all the description for for the partnership and how the project was actually conducted. Yeah, I will reshare that link if need be. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for responding. We have a question for Anna from the Glamorous Europe project. What has been the response from GLAM institutions with regards to this project? Are they enthusiastic or maybe skeptical about this sort of use or something else entirely?
In general, it's all data which is already on Wikidata. So it's mostly from institutions which are very much into linked open data. So most of them so far seemed happy that we use them. We already presented the project last year in Katowice at the Wikimania. And so far, we still have a long list with things we want to do. Among them, also to get in closer touch with more GLAM institutions, also to think how could you, for example, use a version of this project or copy of that project also maybe in-house for their own collections, because usually you have, I mean, if you're a bigger institution, you have a broader digitized collection, at least in some museums. Some did not digitize at all. So there's a big gap in general, but if they have digitized a lot, they have a bigger digitized collection than what they are able to show in-house, let's say. So sometimes it could make also sense to have like a showcase, yeah, station in the museum where you could use like a copy of Glamorous Europe to browse through their own collection, for example. But this is among the various to-dos which we still want to do in the future, also to get into contact more. So if Kasia, if you are interested in get into touch with us closer, and also maybe to connect with, I guess, Polish GLAM institutions, then we would be very happy.
Thank you, Anna, for responding. This and there's another question back to Michael regarding the project mapping libraries
Yeah.
in Uganda. Yeah.
Alan, can I quickly share my screen?
Yes, of course, of course. Please share your
Okay.
screen. Just allow me to
Uh,
read out the question very quickly first. You can share your screen meanwhile, so you know.
yeah, I should be able to
Yeah. So
explain it
yeah. So Andy wants to reiterate
better.
the question of not. That's not what I meant. I know where to read it, but question is where is the data stored? Michael.
Yeah. So the data is being kept on UMAP. So if I this the rights to edit to me, unless I add someone that is on OpenStreetMap, they can be able to do adjustments to the data. The reason for this is that we didn't want the data to be really misappropriated or misused. So this is the data about the libraries. I'm able to, if for example I want to add or edit any information, I'm able to edit it from here. Or for example, if I want to specifically um, edit a given library details about this library, I just go to that specific library and I'm able to edit that information. For example, if I want to add an image, I go uh, to to Wiki Commons, get the embedded link for the image I want to add. For example, if I want to add maybe this image, so I can get more details about the image, and then I can use this file. I can use this file, then I get this embedded link. I come and add it. Um, I add it here. So once I do that, details are updated for that specific library. So the data is being kept on UMAP, but it was used to update details about um, these very libraries on Wikidata and some on Wikipedia that are already there. Yeah.
Well, thank you, thank you. Andy, has Micah is he able to address your question? Ah, thank you, Micah. Thank you, Andy, for asking as well. Do we have any more questions to the presenters? We still have time, you know. No worries. John, would you like to speak? Yes, please unmute yourself. Thank
There
you.
was a comment when I was going through the previous comments in the chat. I saw that somebody talked about MUL, the newly released multilingual, sorry, I would say multiple language label. And yeah, it's interesting because sometimes you do not really need labels in all the languages, especially for the names of persons. But I think if there was a question related to the museums. I would say this cannot be really generalized, even if the link that was shared by someone, this I will share it again. Even if this link says that what is it that you have to do that with respect to persons, but doesn't specify for museums, because sometimes, like, I can give you a simple example. Musée d'Art Contemporain de Lyon or Musée des Beaux-Arts de Lyon, these are Fine Arts Museum of Lyon or Contemporary Arts Museum of Lyon. You can have official translations of these institutions, but you can also translate it to multiple languages. So sometimes you may need the translation and sometimes not. And it's not just about the names, but it could also be about place names or anything. So MUL is interesting use case for human beings, of course, scholarly articles, taxon names, but it cannot be generalized for every aspect. So this is, I think, I just wanted to respond to the question. I hope I correctly said that.
Thank you. For the benefit of our participants, the question was actually asked, or actually a response by Sabine, right? If I'm not wrong, I quote from Sabine. Sabine says, "We will not use MUL labels for museums, would we?" And John is responding to that earlier on. Thank you. I think as a follow-up response to your response, John, Sabine is also asking right now, would we then combine MUL with specific translations for certain questions?
What do you mean by certain questions? Sorry, like, okay.
Languages.
Would you combine MUL with specific translation for certain languages? Uh, Possibly, yes, that would be a good idea, especially for if we know that the instance is a human being. We could do that and combine it with with for the calculation of percentage score. You can say, okay, this object has already a label in MUL, and possibly it's a human being or something that's allowed, so we don't need translation. Yeah, but I think that's could be a feature extension. Interesting. Thank you for that comment. Thanks for the.
Thank you, John, for your response. Thank you from Sabine. So we have a question from Lydia to everyone, I believe. Lydia asked, what do you need from the Wikidata community for your project? Yeah, feel free to raise your hand or to respond to this. Yes, Jan? Jan first, then Michael.
So we will want answers to the question we asked for the community, but I can make it sort of even easier than and switch the question direct to our questions to the other presenters. Do you also feel a need of be able to keep track of what is being used and also note that on Wikidata, so that do you get your things sort of wrecked sometimes by other editors? They not wrecked as in vandalized, but when they are improving the data model, your queries are being not up to date anymore.
Yeah, maybe other presenters, you can respond to Jan's call for response first before I hand over to Michael to respond to Lydia later. Yes, John?
I think this is really interesting because I think most of us who are active contributors on Wikidata have this issue, and I really like the Jan's slide on updates. That they are actually maintaining live updates of things, like they are maintaining the things like how many things have already changed, etc., etc. This is something that is really useful, I feel.
Thank you, John. Anybody would like to respond to Jan's? No? If that's the case, let me hand over to Michael, who has earlier wanted to respond to Lydia's question. Sorry?
Thank you. Thank you, Alan, and Lydia for the question. Yeah, Mine is like asking for directions in this case. There are times when I want to update information like on a number of items on Wikidata, not creating but updating. So with creating new ones, it's I can use quick statements and so on. But I've not found a way where I can uh, query out or maybe get all the items that are already existing and I want to update information on them, specific information. I've not found a way that I can query them out and then update and push the data back to Wikidata. I need direction, or if there is a need to build such tools that we can use in that line. Yeah, it's my my request to the community. Yes.
Thank you, Michael's request. Let me just read the chat from Alice. Alice says that in addition to Michael's request, we will appreciate some training on querying and visualization. We, as in the team, are eager to rise to new heights. Thank you, Alice, for your request as well. I hope Lydia will be happy with this request. Yes, John.
Yeah, this is the response to the question of Lydia. I think I was surprised that we do not have any easy mechanism to get the labels of all the content on a Wikidata page. You can get the translation of Wikidata of a label of an item, but if you go to check the labels of each and every item on properties or property of values, it takes a lot of time. So if you see, when I was developing, I felt like, oh, this is not there. I think there could be some reflection, because if you want to really measure the language gap, this could be done in a one single call. Like right now, I'm making a lot of calls to Wikidata system to get all the translations of everything to verify this number. But I think there could be a easier way to do this. That is something that I would suggest as an improvement. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We have about another 5 more minutes for question and answer before we end this first session, because we want to have some break before the next session at night 19:30 Central Europe time and 18:30 UTC time. Okay. Okay, so Ian has a response to Michael, right? Ian says,
Yeah, I can.
yes, please.
So, Michael, I think we have done a couple of sort of turnarounds where we query Wikidata for something, and then in the query also say, and then we want to add this value and pre-format it so it's ready for cut and paste into quick statements. So we sort of like combine a query with manual addition, enrichment of data, and then turn it back in. But I don't know exactly. We have done too many. So, but in there somewhere, some are also annotated.
Thank you, Jan. And one of our participants, George, has say +1 to the possibility of getting the labels of the properties and values of an item in one API request. Thank you. So John has one more technical question for Anna. Is the data related to likes stored locally on mobile phones?
Okay, I hope I can answer it right now. It's a web app, and we also decided for that because we don't want to store more data as needed. On the other hand, that also raises a bit the question, like how fast the web app works, because yeah, images are always a bit problematic. Also, like the question, how high is the resolution, or how small can you handle it to still make it easy to handle or nice to handle. So that's a question which we still need to tackle. And also the question I was talking about, if we implement user accounts, then yeah, there's another question like how to store data, because then obviously we are also collecting more data. Yeah, but we are still like thinking about it. So still there are some other issues to be solved before. But thank you for your question. Yeah, if you want to get in touch about more technical stuff, then we can just exchange messages or also have a call together if you want.
Thank you, Anna, for responding. Okay, do we have any last comments or response or questions with regards to the wonderful projects that we have seen? Okay. If not, I think we have had a very lively session, right, everyone? Thank you all to all the presenters for taking time and to make the effort to share, showcase, and also to reach out to the community with your wonderful projects, because we all know how much effort has gone into it and all the goodwill has gone into it. We would like to again thank all the participants for joining this wonderful session, and also your questions as well. That helps to keep the whole session very lively. Just want to share very quickly that next up, in about 10 minutes time, we have the next session is called Discussion about Action API. It will be led and moderated by my colleague Ifra. So stay tuned for the next session, and see you all. Yeah, and then games afterwards. Don't forget. Yes, thank you, Lydia, for reminding. Yeah, and we will have games afterwards. Play Wikidata games together by Lydia. So thank you all for joining, and thank you to all the presenters once again for your time and sharing your wonderful projects. Hope to see everyone around again. Thank you. Bye.
Second session. Before we begin, I just want to remind everyone again that the session is going to be live streamed and recorded. So if you don't want to be in the recording, please mute your mics and keep your videos turned off. And I'm going to let my colleagues start the recording, and then we can get right into it. All right. For the people who don't know me, I'm Ifra. I'm the product manager of the Wikibase product platform team at Wikimedia Deutschland. It's the team that had built the REST API if you attended the session yesterday, but we're moving into taking care of multiple data access methods that we have. And the point of today's session actually is just to have a discussion, because I'm not the expert here. I want to hear from the people who have been using it or are interested in using it and ran into some problems. The API is pretty old, and I just want to have the opportunity to hear from the actual experts who are using it, telling us what's missing or what do they like, just so that we can actually improve it and make it worth it to be using this method. And in case someone is watching this on YouTube, and if you want to ask questions, you'd have to sign up to on the Data Reuse Days event page to get the Jitsi link, so you can come in here and then ask questions or just give your opinion. So this is less about me, so I'd already open up the floor and say, if there is something that's always been on your mind to complain about the Action API, please just start talking, and I'm here to listen. And something that, like, just to get people started, the kind of point that John brought up in the session before, asking about, hey, it would be amazing if we had endpoints that would get all the labels of items and properties. That would be amazing. So those are the kind of things that we're looking for, just so that, I can hear from the people who are actually using it. So I'm going to open up the floor. You can use the chat or you can just raise your hand and start. I don't know if silence means that it's the most perfect data access method to ever exist. Because then that's maybe what we're gonna get away from this. Lucas.
Yeah, let's see if my webcam and sound works. So in general, I'm pretty happy with the Action API, which is maybe not super surprising, but one general thing that I run into occasionally, which is maybe relevant to this discussion, is that there's this mismatch between how it's used from the MediaWiki side and so mismatch between the concepts on MediaWiki side and more on the Wikibase side. So from the MediaWiki side, the API has a lot of support for working in terms of pages. So you have all these generators which can generate like all the pages or all the pages that have a certain link or all the pages that are linked on this page. And then with this list of pages generated by one API module, I can feed that directly into another API module and get other properties and all sorts of that. And all of that is not really hooked up right now with the Wikibase part where we're talking about entities instead. And like none of the API modules for Wikibase support taking a generator as an input because the generator would create a page and not an entity ID. And if I get something out of the Wikibase API, I'll get a page that has a title, and then I need to turn the title into an entity ID myself or vice versa. And that's just something that I've occasionally encountered where it's not as nice to work with these two areas of the Action API together as it could be. But I don't know what the solution is, especially if we think about forms and senses which don't even exist on a page of their own. So we can't just pretend that every page is an entity or vice versa. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
No, awesome. So maybe also because people might be on different levels of understanding of the Action API here and things like that. So just to be clear, you're saying that like as a use case, it would be great if like what you're trying to do is to create entities, right? And that process is harder, like seeing from the perspective of a use case. What is it that you're aiming to do or what is the outcome? And that you're like that it's breaking in the middle. Like if you had to simplify it, like yeah, because you're obviously thinking to do something and you're running into this issue, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I remember any specific things I was trying to do when I encountered this. Is more something that I've thought about several times, but I think it would be more in terms of when I'm getting data about an entity than when I'm trying to edit it. Maybe would it make sense if I share my screen for a little bit and show?
Yeah, please
play
go
around
ahead.
in the API sandbox for a
Yeah.
moment. Let's see if it works. This window. So, oops, let's zoom out a little bit. So I can do with the normal APIs, I can use the query module, and I can use one of the various modules that we have here as a generator. Let's say the recent changes, and of each page that generates for me. So these are all the recent changes. I can get, for instance, the categories of those pages. I don't know. And then I get two categories on this one page. Oh, okay, this is stupid. Most of the recent changes are in items, and items don't have categories, but whatever. So I can combine these two API modules whichever way I want. And if I wanted to get the entity data, I would have to use a completely different module like wget entities, for instance, with prop labels in language English with language fallback for mul support. And then what I have to plug into here is just item IDs that I have to get somewhere. There's no way for me to use a generator together with this API. And it would be really nice to have that in theory, but I don't know what it would look like in practice. We'd have to somehow translate between the titles that come out of the generator and the entities that Wikibase wants to see. Or if I could, well, we don't have a lot of querying support in Wikibase outside of the Wikidata query service, which is outside of the API, but if I could get all of the Wikidata items that have a certain statement and plug those into some other API on the MediaWiki side, like, I don't know, Purge or Watch or whatever. Like Purge, for instance, is another module that has a generator parameter. Yeah, but there's just this disconnect there. Maybe API Sandbox made it a little bit clearer, but I think that's all I have to show.
No, that really helps, especially for me, and I understand where that's coming from at least. Don't know if that's okay also for everyone else, because this is obviously an open discussion, and just not between. Yeah, thank you, Jan, and it's not just for myself, but also to hear from others in the community whether it is useful and how would you feel about it, and whether you have a use case in mind for it and things like that. So that was super helpful. Thank you. Yeah, more of this. It doesn't have to be, like the best thing ever, or it could be anything that's crossed your mind, because you never know whether someone else has thought that way as well and just hasn't had the chance to speak up about it. So now's the time. And that also helps us kind of prioritize the work and see where the most impact is. And Lydia is also saying, also we'd like to hear what people like about the Action API, because obviously it's been around for a while and is being used a lot by the billions of requests that are made every month. So also happy to hear that, so that we can kind of take those things as well and put them into the REST API or other APIs that we develop going forward, or generally for other data access methods that we have. Maybe there's something good that was there. Okay. Lucas, just to read that out, from Lucas, something that they like is getting lots of data in one request. Even Wikibase get entities supports multiple entities at once. And then Jan is saying that they like the sandbox, the API sandbox that Lucas just showed to kind of demo the things that they were experiencing. And Jan is asking that perhaps we could have even more examples in the sandbox for people to play around with. More nice things, more complaints. Maybe you had an idea for a use case and couldn't find the right endpoint. Anything basically goes. Or if you have questions about what you would like in the Action API going forward, or the future of it, also happy to discuss that, because our team is actively working on doing these things and figuring it out. Nicholas just asked a question. Sorry, I missed. Did we talk about like themes already? Not in this session, so I'm happy to hear more about it. You're welcome to just write it out if you'd like, and I can read it out to everybody in the session. And Lucas wants to wait at the end of the queue. I'm going to give Nicholas a bit of time. They're saying basically so many things on Lexemes are not doable with the API right now. Would you mind telling me a little bit about, because as far as I know, but you can like, please excuse my, yeah, I was going to say what Lydia just said. I wanted to clarify whether you're mentioning the Action API or the REST API, because I know that the Action API definitely has a few endpoints for working with Lexemes. They're saying both or any. I can answer definitely clearly for the REST API. So far right now, we only, I mean, it's only been in development for like a year and a half or so, and the team was quite small. So we finished everything for items and properties. And we haven't heard much about, yeah, the prioritization for Lexemes is a little further down as compared to search. For the Action API, as far as I know, also based on the documentation, there are definitely some endpoints, but I have people here who are probably more are more expert, have better expertise in Action API than I do. I don't know whether they're just not helpful, because from what I see, there's something for merging of Lexemes. There's Wikibase. I'm gonna copy. Nicholas has shared a Phabricator ticket. It's an old ticket from 2019, and it's asking about complete support of Lexemes in quick statements. Okay, and from that, what I can summarize for everyone else who's hasn't been able to click on the link from the Phabricator ticket is they're asking that a few things are missing, such as creating the Lexeme, creating the form, creating sense, and a few other specific things at the Lexeme form and sense level. I think right off the bat, I can just see like that there's Wikibase add form and add sense, but I really don't want to say anything that I don't know 100%. There are definitely these endpoints. Maybe they're not at the level or are not fulfilling the needs that you've listed. And they're saying it's about the query service, but apparently the problem comes from the Action API. And Lucas just answered saying the Action API supports any Lexeme edits.
Maybe I should.
So it might be like, yeah, Lucas.
Sorry, I just thought I should answer here instead of typing, so that you don't have to type it all out, read it all out. So I think there was a discussion in the Wikidata channel earlier about Quick Statements version 3 not supporting Lexemes because Quick Statements 3 is based on the REST API, but previous Quick Statements, I'm not sure if that's 2 or 1 or whatever, use the Action API, so that one should be able to support Lexemes as far as I know, because anything you can do with the UI for Lexemes also use the Action API. And yeah, Lydia?
Yeah, for the previous Quick Statements version, it's not the API that's lacking, it's Quick Statements that hasn't implemented it. And for the newer Quick Statements version, it's the API that hasn't implemented it, but Quick Statement could support it. So we are in a bit of a shitty situation. But Lexemes are important, and I think Ifra has that on her list, and then when the team gets to actually implementing it in the REST API at some point, then Quick Statement 3 should be able to easily add that.
This discussion is helpful for me as well, just because I think it's good to hear, because we're also new to the community and also to the whole data access thing. So it's helpful to hear directly what's important and what the priorities are. So we can definitely look into it again and see how we can get to it, and then we'll keep everybody up to date. Just because it seems like a very important thing, and I know quick statements is quite beloved. So I'll see what we can do for sure. Amazing. I'm trying to see if there were any other questions. I know that Lucas, I don't know if we didn't get to that because you ended up answering something else. Did you have another question?
Yeah, kind
Or
of.
just like, yeah.
Combined praise / feature request / question. So one thing I really like about the Action API is WB edit entity, where I can make basically any edit to an item or property or like theme, I think, in one API request. What I don't like is that if I do this, it means the edit summary is useless. And there's an old task about making Wikibase figure out, okay, this is the actual difference that's being used, that's being made in this edit, and then let's figure out the most specific edit summary that we can, how we can describe this edit. And I was wondering if there's something like that in the REST API, because I think the REST API has a similar endpoint, I think, where you can just post any entity data to it. And I'm wondering if the REST API has some code to figure out the best edit summary for based on the actual diff of the edit. And if yes, can we hook that up in WB edit entity as well? That's the feature request.
Okay, I'm going to see, I can't answer right off the bat whether that's possible or not, but I can definitely check that for you to see whether we're doing that with the REST API and how, if, or just show you whether it's like helpful enough or relevant enough. And if that's the case, then we can see what we can do going forward with that. But that makes sense. Just for transparency's sake as well, that when you do make the edit, the summary makes sense for someone else who's reading it later on. So that use case is pretty clear. Yeah, but I can't tell you right off the bat from the top of my head how it looks like in the REST API. And I don't know if anybody from my team is here today who would know it better. But yeah, but duly noted and makes sense. And we'll see what we can do. But yeah, I also want to make a very clear statement here that obviously I'm listening and we're writing things down. But we're obviously not going to do all of the things that we're talking about today as well, and all the features that we're feature ideas or requests that we're getting here today. We're just going to look into this from our end as well and see how we can best use the resources that we have at the moment. So I don't want to run away from here, kind of making promises that I can't keep. Just want to be open about that. Hey, we have Ollie. I didn't know. Hello. Ollie is
currently in the car. I don't know if you can hear me very well.
We can, but you shouldn't be talking from the car.
Oh no, I'm not driving. Don't worry. My wife is driving. I'm a passenger, so I can listen in. To answer Lucas's question, we decided in the REST API to use the same edit summaries that the Action API uses. So if you use the edit item endpoint, it will use the same thing that the WB edit entity uses. So there's no extra cleverness in the REST API. If you use one of the endpoints which is more specific, then it will have a slightly better summary. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks. I think we added like one specific edit summary for the mobile term box, if I remember correctly, because there you can set labels in more than one language at once, and the mobile term box is in one edit instead of several. But then, yeah, it was never expanded beyond that.
But I think in general, it's yeah, it's a helpful point, and then we can see what we can do, like where it makes sense. Because if it's helpful, regardless for other people as well, then we can see how we can add it into both, especially if the REST API is also using something from the Action API. yeah, but thanks, Ollie, for jumping in. I'd also say we have like 8 more minutes, and I would assume maybe people want a bit of a break before they go and play some games and relax. Also, for everyone who's watching somewhere else and also here in the Jitsi room, the games are not going to be recorded, so you can feel free to just show up and just have a good time. You don't have to be stressed about anything being recorded or live streamed or anything like that. You're just in the room playing games. That's it. Okay. Going to ask one more time if there's anything else that people would like to share. And if you don't feel comfortable talking about it now, I had shared my email address before this as well. You can just send me an email or just tag me in the general Telegram group if you think of something later, and I'll make sure that I have that noted down somewhere. Yeah, so no need to panic. There's still time to always tell me feedback or just ideas and things like that. Yeah. If there's nothing else, I'm going to say a huge thank you to everyone who asked questions or shared their thoughts or just chatted in the chat. Jan, do you want to talk, or is this just a...
No, I did, but I'm not sure if my mic is good. Is it?
No, yeah, it's perfect. Can hear
All right.
you very
I just
well.
had a last-minute idea here when I was trying to look at the sandbox for WB edit entity. And from the sandbox, there's no link to the documentation for that specific thing. So that would be a nice way to like find yourself to the deeper thing.
That's super helpful. That's a good point. And probably, ooh, I think I hear the echo of my own voice. I'm very sorry. I apologize that you have to hear me talk, because if that's what I sound like. But that's I think that those are one of those like low-hanging fruit kind of wins. So I'll see how we can kind of change that a little bit. And we had heard from people here and there as well that the documentation was a bit lacking in general, or just having this like having the space to go back to the documentation isn't the most ideal. So thank you. That's a good last minute addition. I made a note of that as well. All right. Anything else before everyone gets very geared up for the games? All right. Amazing. Then I'm going to say thank you again for being here. And like Leah said, time for games. Yeah, let's take a bit of a break, and we can meet back in the Jitsi room to see who's going to be the best GeoGuessr. All right. Thank you. See you all soon.